Hello guys, so in this video, we are going to solve for the supplementary problems I gave you about family of curves. So before we start solving, I would like to apologize if there's an annoying mouth sound that I'm making. Unfortunately, I'm unable to edit this out. Also, if there may be background noises, that's probably because it's quite raining outside right now. Okay, so without further ado, let's start with the first problem that's provided to us. And that is straight line whose x and y intercepts are equal. So for number 1, let me change our pen color. We are already given the idea that the x and y intercepts are equal. That means we both have a and b. A representing your x-intercept and B representing your y-intercept. And according to the condition, these two values are considered equal in this family of straight lines. So, doon sa straight line forms that we have, kailangan natin gamitin si intercept form based on the given. So, you are given the x and y intercept. So, we're going to use the x and the intercept form x over a plus y over b equivalent to 1. So we are already given 2 points here. You have the x-intercept and the y-intercept. So all we have to do is identify whether these two will be constant or will be a parameter. Okay, so if you're going to realize kung siya ay x and y intercept equal, kunwari, this is our x and y axis. So, if the x-intercept is 1, the y-intercept will also be 1. If you're going to create the equation, or the line, this will be that particular line. If the x-intercept is 2, the y-intercept will also be 2 because they're supposed to be equal. So, the sketch of the line will be this one. 3, 3. So, let's say, this is your sketch of the line. Obviously, the intercepts will always be different from each other. But definitely, the intercepts will be considered parameters in this case, but both the x and the y-intercept will be equal to each other. Okay, anyway, every line will have different x and y-intercepts. Therefore, these two will be considered parameters. Okay, but since A is equivalent to B, in this equation, pwede na nating palitan yun, we can change the equation to x over A plus y over A since A is already equivalent to B. So that you'll be able to reduce the equation into just one constant, into just one arbitrary constant, that's A. So for me to be able to solve this, what I'm going to do is multiply both sides by A to remove the fraction. What would happen is, distributing, you get x plus y equivalent to A. This will be my equation 1. And all I have to do is take the first derivative of this equation. Since iisa naman yung ating, we only have one arbitrary constant. That would be, the derivative of x is 1, plus the derivative of y is y prime, equivalent to the derivative of an arbitrary constant will be 0. So from here, after one derivative, the arbitrary constant is already eliminated, which means this will already be our final answer. All we have to do is arrange in order. So that's y prime plus 1. We'll start with the derivatives equivalent to 0. And this will be our final answer for the family of straight lines with the x and y intercepts equal. So moving on, let's have problem number 2. Problem number 2 reads, circles with centers on the y-axis. So we are trying to solve for yung mga circles daw po natin whose centers are plotted in the y-axis. So if this is your Cartesian coordinate system, all the circles that you can think of whose centers are in the y-axis. So, walang binanggit about the radius, which means it can be of any size as long as the center is on the y-axis. So, if the center is on the y-axis, we can say that the coordinates of the center will definitely be hk with h equivalent to 0 and k will be represented by k. Since lahat ng h natin dito is on the y-axis, that means wala tayong x-coordinate, it's 0. Whereas, since magkakaiba yung pwesto or placement ng circles natin, k here will be considered a parameter that we need to eliminate. Aside from that, since we are free to draw any size of circle that we have, that means r, the radius, will also be considered a parameter. So for this problem, we will have two arbitrary constants or two parameters to eliminate. Okay, so since this is a circle, recalling, the standard form will be x minus h squared plus y minus k squared, quantity equal to the radius squared. So substituting the values that we have x minus 0 for h, plus k will still be k, and r will still be r squared. Simplifying, this will be x squared na for this term, and copy the rest since there will be no changes, equal to r squared. This equation right here is our equation number 1. So in equation number 1, we have two constants to eliminate. You have k and you have two arbitrary constants. You have k and r to eliminate. So we have to conduct up until the second derivative to eliminate those constants. So for the first derivative, the derivative of x squared is 2x. The derivative of y minus k squared will be, bring down 2, copy the base, y minus k, babawasan ng isa, and then take the derivative of the base. So for the derivative of the base, this will be y prime, diba, times y prime minus the derivative of k, which is an arbitrary constant, that's 0. And then, equal to the derivative of r squared, which is an arbitrary constant, 0 na siya, So if we will simplify, obviously, 2 is factorable on both terms. So we have 2 here, you have 2 here, you can factor that out. And simply divide both sides of the equation by 2 para cancel na siya on the left side. So what will remain is x plus you have y minus k times y prime equivalent to 0 divided by 2 will still be 0. Kaya 0 pa rin ito. And this will represent equation number 2, which is your first derivative. So after the first derivative, the next thing we have to do is conduct second derivative. Since dalawa yung constant natin, So the first derivative of x, the derivative of x is equivalent to 1 plus, for the derivative of this term, you have two functions. You have y minus k that is multiplied to y prime, which means you have to conduct product rule. So let us assign y minus k as u and y prime as v. Following u dv plus v du, we have u, copy, y minus k, multiplied by the derivative of v, the derivative of y prime is y double prime, plus v du. So, we're going to copy v, that's y prime, multiplied by the derivative of y minus k. So, for the derivative of y minus k, that is y prime, minus the derivative of k is 0. Okay, and then equate to the derivative of 0 will still be 0 since it is a constant. So, simplifying, this will be 1 plus y minus k, y double prime, plus y prime times y prime. So, you have y prime quantity squared equate to 0. So, in the second derivative, which is this one, we were not able to eliminate the arbitrary constant k. So, we will tag this as equation number 3. Observing the three equations that we have, this is equation 1, equation 2, and equation 3. Okay, what we can do is substitution. In equations 2 and 3, you have there both containing y minus k. So, ang gawin na lang natin, solve for y minus k in any of the two equations. So, maalin? Pwedeng dito mo i-solve si y minus k or sa equation 3. But the best choice would be solve for y minus k in equation 2 since this one is simpler compared to equation 3. Okay? So, let me write here, solve for y minus k in equation 2. Okay, let's copy. Equation 2 is x plus y minus k times y prime equal to 0. So we have to transpose this to the right side. You will get y minus k times y prime equivalent to negative of x. Okay, to get y minus k on the left side, you have to divide both sides by y prime so that you transpose it sa right. Cancel na ito. So, yung y minus k ngayon natin from equation 2 is equivalent to negative x all over y prime. So, the next thing you're going to do is, since from here, nakuha mo na you were able to obtain the value of y minus k. So, this value, we will substitute to equation 3, particularly in this part. Okay. So, let me note here, substitute to equation 3. So, in equation 3, okay, let me write in 3. Let's copy the equation. So, we have 1 plus y minus k times y double prime plus y prime quantity squared equal to 0. So, kinapi lang natin ha. We copied equation 3. This is equation 3. And then we will substitute the value of y minus k with negative x over y prime. Okay. So, this will become 1 plus, in place of y minus k, we will replace it with negative of x over y prime times y double prime, copy the rest, plus y prime quantity squared equal to 0. So, to simplify this, we have to remove the y prime in the denominator. So, we will multiply the whole equation by y prime to remove the fraction or the denominator and distribute it on both left and right sides. So, sa left side, that's y prime times 1. So, that's y prime pa rin. Plus, for the second term, that's y prime times this term. Cancel na. So, we will be left with negative x times y double prime. So, let me write, instead of plus, let me replace it by negative x times y double prime. And then, y prime times y prime squared. So, that would be positive y prime cube na siya. Equal to 0 times y prime is still 0. So, in this equation, ayan, we were already able to remove our arbitrary constants which are k, nasa na yun? K and r. In this equation, we do not anymore have k and r. So, the next thing you have to do is just arrange the equation, or arrange the terms based on the order of the derivative. So, we'll start with this one. What I'm going to do is transpose it to the right to make it positive. We have xy double prime minus y prime cube and then minus y prime equivalent to 0. So, this is already accepted as a correct answer. But if you want, since parehas naman itong first derivative terms, we can factor out common terms from this two. Pwede natin tong gawing xy double prime. And then we can factor out negative y prime. The negative sign at saka si y prime. We will have y prime squared plus 1. So, from here, finactor out natin si negative saka si y prime. And then, this will be equivalent to 0. If you want the simplest answer, this will be your simplest answer. But, the equation above it, this one, is already considered a correct answer. Okay. So, that is it for problem number 2. This one represents your differential equation for the family of circles with centers on the y-axis. Okay, so moving forward, for our next problem, we have number 3. Problem number 3 states, we're solving for the family of parabolas with vertex and focus on the x-axis and opening to the right. So, if the vertex and the focus will be on the x-axis, obviously, yung parang major axis natin or yung axis na magta-transverse sa parabola natin is the x-axis. Ano po? So, either left and right lang yung opening niya, pero sinabi na naman ng problem na opening to the right siya. So, if you will try to draw a sketch for this, to easily identify kung sino yung constant and parameters. So, any parabola daw with walang sinabi tungkol sa opening, sa latus rectum, yung pagkakabuka niya. So, it could be of any size. Basta nasa x-axis yung kanyang vertex and focus. And opening to the right, yung ating parabola. Okay. So, based on this illustration, we can say that the vertex, the vertex will be represented by h0. So, you can have any value of h since it's on the x-axis. But for the y-coordinate, it will always be 0 since nasa y-axis nga tayo. In that case, h will be considered a parameter since it's different from every parabola drawn. And at the same time, yung a natin for the latus rectum will also be considered a parameter since hindi in-identify ng problem sa atin what would be the opening of the parabola. So in this case, for this kind of family, we have two arbitrary constants to consider. That's h and a. Since this is opening to the right, we will be using the standard form y minus k squared equal to positive 4a times x minus h. So substituting these values here, we have y minus 0 for k squared equal to 4a times x minus h. So simplifying, that's y squared equal to 4a times x minus h. This will be your equation 1 that represents this family of curves. So in this equation, we have two arbitrary constants or two parameters to eliminate. You have both h and a. Okay, in this case, we will conduct two derivatives. For the first derivative, that is 2y, y prime, equivalent to 4a times, for the derivative of this will be 1 minus 0 na. So, 1 na lang. Kaya you have 4a na lamang. Okay. In that case, we can simplify both sides. Before we finalize equation 2, we can factor out 2 or divide both sides by 2. Cancel siya dito sa left side, you'll get y prime equal to 2a. This will be your second equation. So, your second equation gives us our first derivative. And then, conducting second derivative to eliminate the constants. So, ito, we will conduct product rule for the derivative of this. So, let's assign u times v. That would be u, that's y. Derivative of v, derivative of y prime is y double prime, plus v, which is y prime, times the derivative of u, which is y. That would be y prime also. Equivalent to the derivative of 2a, which is an arbitrary constant, that's 0. So, from the second derivative, we will already able to eliminate the two arbitrary constants. Kaya ang gagawin na lang natin is simplify our equation. So, this will be y double prime plus the quantity of y prime squared equal to 0. This will be your final answer for the family of parabolas with center and with vertex and focus on the x-axis opening to the right. Okay? And then, last but not the least, let's solve for number 4. So, for number 4, we are given here all the vertical hyperbolas daw with center at 2, 1. So, when we say vertical hyperbolas, we're talking about the transverse axis. The transverse axis of the hyperbola being vertical. So, if we will try to sketch the illustration, the center of the hyperbola will be at 2, 1. Okay, so let's say ito si 2. And then ito si 1. So ito si 2, 1. Ito yung vertex natin. And then dyan daw yung transverse axis natin. Ano? Vertical. Dadaan dyan yung transverse axis natin which happens to be vertical. So let's say ito yun. So if the transverse axis is vertical, that means upward, downward, yung itsura ng hyperbola natin. Ano? Kunwari, meron ka ditong vertex. Meron tayong vertex dito. So, pwedeng pa ganito yung ating hyperbola. Diba? Ito yung ating vertex, 2, 1. Or, walang sinabi, no, tungkol dun sa size ng A and C natin kung gaano kalayo. So, pwedeng andito siya, pa ganyan. Okay, ibig sabihin, nandito naman yung vertices natin. Ay, sorry. So, ito pala ay center. No, not a vertex. Okay, so yan. Ganyan na itsura niya, no? If the transverse axis is vertical, ibig sabihin, ganito ang itsura. Either up and down. Up and down yung illustration ng hyperbola natin. Okay, so, given the center, at 2, 1, obviously, what else do we need to look for? So, meron na tayong center na 2, 1. This is already considered a constant kasi fixed point siya. We also need to consider that in the hyperbola, you need A and B, which are both not mentioned in the problem. So, meaning they will both be considered parameters of this family. So, pwedeng magkakaiba, ano? Iba yung A ng bawat hyperbola that we can create. So, with this, kapag vertical ang transverse axis natin, meaning transverse axis is vertical, that means y ang positive. Ano nga, in our standard equation. So, that would be y minus k quantity squared. Siya yung positive. Nasa kanya si a squared. Minus x minus h quantity squared over b squared equivalent to 1. So, all you have to do is substitute the values that we have, particularly yung ating center. Okay? So, for the center, na 2, 1, you have y minus 1 for k. We do not have a value for a since it's a parameter, so that's a squared. Minus x minus 2 for h squared. We don't have a value for b. That will remain as b squared equivalent to 1. Okay? So, to easily differentiate this, you have to remove the denominator kasi nagkataon yung denominator natin. Yan yung mga arbitrary constants that we have to eliminate. So, para hindi tayo mahirapan mag-derivative, kesa mag-u over v pa tayo, ano? Since yung dinidifferentiate is nasa denominator, alisin na natin yung denominator by multiplying by the LCD. So, that product rule na lang ang gagawin natin, uv instead of u over v in the derivatives. Pero before we do that, of course, this will be your equation number 1. And in this equation, dalawa yung ating arbitrary constants to eliminate, which means aabot tayo until the second derivative. Pero before we pursue the first derivative, again, alisin muna natin yung ating denominator. So for the LCD, that would be a squared b squared, product of the denominators. So we will multiply both the left and right side of your equation by a squared b squared, and then distribute on both sides. So for the left side po, ito, multiplied by this, cancel si a squared. So, we will have b squared multiplied by y minus 1 quantity squared minus, for this one, distribute, cancel si b squared. So, you have a squared times x minus 2 quantity squared equal to, for the right side, you have 1 times a squared b squared. So, that would be a squared b squared. Okay? So, in this case, mas madali na siyang i-differentiate. Kasi instead of u over v, magiging u times v na lang tayo pag nag-derivative. Okay? So, or since constant naman to, hindi mo naman necessarily need na mag u times v. Kasi ito naman ay constant. So, pag constant, tinatabi lang naman natin yun, no? So, for the first derivative of this equation, we have b squared, tabi lang natin. And then, i-multiply natin by the derivative of y minus 1 squared. So, for this one, Bring down the exponent. So, let me write before b squared si 2. Copy the base, y minus 1. Babawasan ng isa, kaya 1 na to. And then, derivative of the base natin will be y prime. Okay, and then minus, copy the constant, a squared. And then, take the derivative of x minus 2 squared. So, that would be 2, okay, times x minus 2 raised to 1 times the derivative of x minus 2, that would be 1 na lang. So, I won't write it anymore. And then equals, on the right side, this is product of constants. So, meaning, constants yan, arbitrary constants pa rin yan. Pag derivative natin, 0 pa din siya. Okay. So, before we proceed on finalizing equation 2, let's factor out common terms muna. So, obviously, factorable yung 2. I-divide na natin both sides by 2 para ma-simplify siya. Cancel na siya on both terms. Meaning, on the left side of your equation, we will only have b squared, y minus 1 y prime, minus a squared times x minus 2. And then on the right side, this will still be 0. Okay, and let's say this is our equation number 2. So, yan ngayon yung ating first derivative. Ano nga? Next. After that, ang gawin natin ay i-derivative uli natin siya. So, since ito'y constant, again, i-factor out na natin yung constant na yon. And then, i-multiply ngayon natin to sa derivative ng tira. So, itong tira ngayon natin na ito, this will utilize product rule para ma-derivative siya kasi product of two terms yan. Ano? Y minus 1 and y prime. So, ang gawin natin, we have b squared multiplied to, yan, lagyan natin ng brackets, multiplied to the derivative of u times v. So, copy u, that's y minus 1, times the derivative of v, that's y double prime, plus v, that's y prime, times the derivative of y minus 1. So, the derivative of y minus 1 will still be y prime for this. Ano nga? And 0 for 1. Okay? Close brackets. And then minus, so we have minus, kopyahin ulit natin si a squared. I-multiply natin siya with the derivative of x minus 2. So, for the derivative of x minus 2, that will simply be 1 na lang. Equal to, for the right side, 0 pa din. Okay. So, yan. Simplifying, anong meron tayo? We can say na, ayan, ito na. Mawawala lang naman yung 1 dito. B squared, y minus 1, y double prime, plus y prime, or y prime squared, minus a squared will be equivalent to 0. Ano? So, in this equation, bago natin siya i-simplify, hindi natin na-eliminate yung constants natin na a and b. Diba? We were not able to eliminate a and b. So, ang gawin na lang natin dito, substitution tayo. No? Pero bago natin gawin yun, sige, simplify muna natin. So, this will be b squared times y minus 1 y double prime plus y prime squared minus a squared equal to 0. This will be your third equation. Okay, so, ito ngayon yung 3 equations natin. Pwedeng sabihin natin na ito na lang yung first equation. Pwede naman. Ano? Equation number 1, equation number 2, and then this one will be equation number 3. In the third equation, we were not able to eliminate a squared and b squared, which happens to be present also in the second equation, a squared and b squared. So, ang gagawin ko na lang, to be able to eliminate, ano, since naka-0 naman on both sides, ang gawin ko, kunin ko na lang yung value ng ratio nitong dalawa. I-ratio ko na lang si a squared and b squared, and then i-equate ko na lang. So, kumbaga, parang ganito ang mangyayari. Ano? In equation 2, kopyahin natin yung equation natin. That's b squared, y minus 1 y prime, minus a squared, x minus 2 equal to 0. So, ang gawin ko, i-transpose ko to sa right side. That's b squared, y minus 1 y prime. That would be equivalent to, positive na yung a squared natin, x minus 2. So, ang gawin ko, I will solve for, pagsasamahin ko lahat ng arbitrary constant on one side. So, ang gagawin natin siyang a squared over b squared para magkasama sila on one side. Or, pwedeng baliktad, b squared over a squared. Kung saan kayo convenient, kung alin ang madali para sa inyo. Okay, so in this case, ang gagawin ko ay a squared over b squared na lang. Ano? So, divide both sides by b squared para makancel siya dito. And then, divide both sides also by x minus 2 para matanggal ko yung x minus 2 sa right side. Ganyan yung mangyayari. Okay, sige. Sulat na natin. On both sides, I will divide by b squared para matranspose ko si b squared. Cancel ngayon siya sa left. And then, para arbitrary constant lang ang magkakasama, I have to divide by x minus 2 also. Yung both sides ng equation natin. Para wala ng x minus 2 sa right. Kaya pag tinignan ngayon natin, you will be able to obtain a squared over b squared from equation 2, which is equal to this. Equal siya kay y minus 1 y prime over x minus 2. And then, I will do the same in equation 3. Kasi kaya ko ding isolve dito yung ratio ng a squared over b squared. Tapos, equate na lang natin. So, let me copy. In equation 3, let me copy the equation. Let me move this para medyo malaki yung space natin. Kopyahin natin sa equation. That's b squared times the quantity y minus 1y double prime plus y prime squared minus a squared equal to 0. So, all you have to do is transpose na lang si a squared sa right. That means this will be b squared, copy lang, y minus 1y double prime plus y prime squared equals a squared. Okay, and then to solve for a squared over b squared, i-divide na lang natin both sides by b squared para cancel siya sa left. So, in equation 3, masosolve natin si a squared over b squared. Ito siya. Dito siya equal. Equal ngayon ito kay y minus 1, y double prime, plus y prime quantity squared. Okay. And then, ayan na. You were able to get in equation 2, ito yung value ng a squared over b squared. In equation 3, ito yung value ng a squared over b squared. So, in the end, let's just equate that since they are both a squared over b squared, i-equate na lang natin. Meaning, equal lang ang value nilang dalawa. So, on the left side, that would be equivalent to y minus 1, y prime over x minus 2. And then, on the right side, you have there y minus 1, y double prime, plus y prime squared. Okay. So, sunod dito, sisimplify na lang natin siya kasi after equating, wala na si a and b. So, this will lead us to our final answer na we just have to simplify. So, to simplify, let's remove the denominator, which means we multiply both sides by x minus 2 so that we can cancel it out on the left side. You will get on the left y minus 1 times y prime equals on the right, we have to distribute. Okay. So, i-distribute natin si x minus 2 on both terms. You will get, let's say, x minus 2 times y minus 1, y double prime, plus another x minus 2 multiplied to y prime squared. Okay. So, in this case, pwede nating i-rearrange to. Let's start with the second derivative. That would be x minus 2 times y minus 1, y double prime, plus, sunod natin si y prime, pero unahin natin yung higher degree. So, plus x minus 2, y prime squared. Okay, and then transpose na lang natin to sa right side. So, minus y minus 1, y prime, equal to 0. So, this equation right here, this is already considered a correct answer. But if you want, pwede mo namang i-factor out ang y prime dito sa dalawang to since parehas silang may y prime. So, mangyayari lang dyan, magiging x minus 2, y minus 1, y double prime, plus, if you will factor out y prime on both sides, or on both terms, di ang matitira na lang sa atin is x minus 2 times y prime minus the quantity y minus 1. Tapos itong buong quantity na to is multiplied by y prime equal to 0. Okay, in the end, pwede mo pa rin ayusin yan. Magiging x minus 2, y minus 1, y double prime, plus, ayusin natin, x minus 2, y prime. Let's distribute the negative sign. So, magiging minus y plus 1. Ito nga yung buong quantity na to ang nakamultiply with y prime equal to 0. This might be or this could be the best answer that we have for this problem. So, medyo mahaba siya. But do not forget that for us to be able to solve, you need your skills in elimination of arbitrary constants. So, yun lang naman ang pahaba dito. Nga po. So, that solves for us problem number 4. Okay, so I hope you learned and understood wherever you were mistaken from the assignment that you submitted through the LMS. I hope you were able to check what you did. And with that, I will leave you with another, parang isang tanong na lang, para for you to practice on. I'll give you another family of curve question, and then I'll provide you with the final answer, but I will not anymore solve it. For another problem to try, please solve for the differential equation of the family of circles with fixed radius r and tangent to the x-axis. So there are two possible answers for this family of curves, but parehas lang naman sila, magkaiba lang yung arbitrary constant na ginamit. Okay, so that's it for family of curves.